Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pedro. I'm from the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center in Bangkok, Thailand. And today, on behalf of ADPC, I would like to convey a very important message, very simple but very important message, which is that we need to strengthen the resilience of our small and medium enterprises, especially in the Asian region. But let's hear this message from our partners and colleagues. Can we play the video, please?
Natural disasters are occurring more frequently and continue to be unpredictable. The Asia-Pacific region is home to over 70% of the world's natural disasters. The socio-economic costs of disasters have increased in recent years due to various factors. Businesses, both large and small, are severely disrupted by such extreme events. Despite being the largest group of businesses globally, small and medium enterprises are relatively at risk due to limited capacity in disaster preparedness.
Following the devastating floods of 2011 here in Thailand, the Asian Disaster Preparedness Centre took the initiative to engage with the Office of Small to Medium Enterprise Promotion here in Thailand to design training programs specifically to build resilience through business continuity planning. We know that communities and small business are the lifeblood of small communities, and it's very important to get them to recover fast.
iPrepare Business is a facility at ADPC that creates an enabling environment for private sector, particularly the small and medium enterprises, to build their capacity and resilience from natural disaster. One of the important aspects of this particular facility would be to help the SMEs developing their risk assessment from natural disasters, to have training and capacity building on business continuity planning, and finally to do the knowledge management dissemination.
Natural hazards did not only bring economic loss to one country or nation state alone, because the impacts will extend to all levels of economies due to the supply chain disruption. And I think that my warriors is the small and medium enterprises, because they have actively nowadays involved the global supply chain, and they were exposed to risk more than the big company or the multinational companies. So therefore, I think we need some interventions to help them manage this disaster risk.
It's highly important that business considers itself as an organization that is taking risks and therefore managing risks for a return, for a commercial return. Therefore, it should become a part of their nature and their DNA that they have a risk management system, a risk assessment system, and a business continuity planning. It's very important because if business comes to a halt, there's no cash flow, the business falls, the economy falls, and the whole population, the community is affected. So it's highly important that they engage in that. We as a large company undertake that exercise on a yearly basis. And in so doing, it has allowed us to be able to survive the 2011 flood, not only for ourselves, but in order to make sure also that the patients in the hospitals are supplied, fully supplied, without interruption of the needed medicines, essential medicines, life-saving medicines, vaccines. Therefore, I think it is highly important that small and medium-sized enterprises who are operating on less resources than we have should practice this like the Bible, like they read the Bible, because it should become a part of their activities, should become a part of their thinking. Because without business continuity planning, there's no business continuity when things happen unexpectedly and you fall.
Business resilience is very important to a strong regional economic integration. Competitiveness and sustainability of SMEs in a regional market also depends on their capacity in managing the risk arising from increasingly frequent disasters.
The importance of SME for the AEC is very well proven. I think the economy of AEC is really based on SME. About 96% of member countries' economy really depend a lot on SME. So I think the security of SME operations is very important to ensure the continuation of economic activities in AEC.
I-Prepare business team of ADPC is working to engage the private sector in disaster risk reduction to ensure safer and resilient communities in the region.
So why SME resilience? Well, SMEs in the Asian region represent more than 90% of all businesses, and of course they provide employment to the majority of the population. SMEs are also deeply embedded in the communities, and because of this, they are a major source of social cohesion. They provide employment, and they provide livelihoods to the majority of people. The problem is that when disasters strike, SMEs are the most vulnerable businesses because they lack the capacities and resources that bigger companies have. Usually, in developing countries, SMEs do not have any business continuity plan in place that other bigger companies have. If their operations get disrupted, this has both economic and social impacts. ADPC started to work with businesses after the devastating floods in 2011 in Thailand. We basically started to do some risk assessments, and then we continue with partner support. We continue with implementing a project that train small and medium enterprises as well as government officials from the SME promotion offices and disaster risk management agencies on business continuity planning, specifically on the international standard ISO 22301. Then, under this program, we successfully trained over 90 SMEs and 40 government officials. Later on, we also conducted national forums where we brought together businesses, small and big, as well as governments and developing partners to talk about resilience. During these years, working with SMEs and governments, we have learned a number of lessons. In our efforts to institutionalize a multi-stakeholder multi-hazard risk assessment, we need to protect. We need to we need to include the private sector because until now the private sector has been a passive participant, not an active participant. And as we have seen, they are fundamental to the resilience of the society. We also need to mobilize support and further develop and harmonize business continuity planning. However, we need to simplify it so that SMEs can utilize it because normal business continuity planning is too resource intensive and too hard for small companies to implement it. We need to also provide an enabling environment through the government, through legislation and incentives, and enhance the use of data sharing and data sharing platforms so that SMEs can easily access risk information to develop their own risk assessments. So the way forward, we see it as having these 4 pillars. First, raising the awareness of SMEs, but also of government officials, of SME promotion agencies, since they could incorporate in their curricula. For example, they have now marketing courses, they have accounting courses for SMEs, but we could incorporate risk assessment courses, we could incorporate business continuity planning courses. We need to build their capacities by simplifying BCP and risk assessment, and then we also need to create an enabling environment so that the government can provide a strong legal framework as well as incentive programs to SMEs for more resilient investments. And finally, we need to promote resilience of SMEs because they are also fundamental links in global supply chains resilience, so that we avoid the domino effect that happened during the 2011 floods, where basically it was impossible to buy Ford cars that were being produced in Thailand in the region for 6 months. Finally, let me introduce you to our new project under the I Prepare Business program. We have received support from the Government of Canada through Asian Development Bank, and also from the Global Initiative on Disaster Risk Management through GIZ, in order to have a two-year program in Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Philippines, so that we will strengthen the resilience of SMEs across the region. The 4 pillars of the program are first identifying the actions that we need to undertake in order to enhance the resilience of SMEs. Second, we will provide technical support to SMEs as well as government officials, as I previously explained. And then we will support the government to establish the enabling environment by making an assessment of the current legislation and suggesting improvements, as well as incentive programs. And finally, we will continue to get together development partners, public sector and private sector, so that they share their experiences in resilient investments. So thank you very much. That's pretty much all I wanted to share with you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to approach me or any of my colleagues after this presentation. Thank you.